So I want to talk a bit, it's not a formal shiur, it's more a shiur which I want you to get to know. Tonight is the Liomא Dehilulא Rabba of the Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe was, the Rebbe used to stress, Ba'al VAshul Chenorach. Alter Rebbe was the Gaon, the Machadash in Chassidus, in Pnimis HaTorah, it was a Gaon in Machadash in Nigla the Torah. The Shechenorach Harav, the Alter Rebbe Shechenorach, is not like a lot of other, like the Kitzur Shechenorach, like the Chaya Odom. The Alter Rebbe Shechenorach is a little bit totally different than this other Chushev Choshev Svara, but it's not the same Nikide. And I want to stress a little bit. We should see how the Alter Rebbe, how did he wake, what did he want to do, and first to give you should know what Gdoli's rule said at the Alter Rebbe Shechenorach. I want to start with the Tzanzaruf. Tzanzaruf, the Divrei Chaim, was one of the biggest Gdoli's rule Bizmanoi. He asked Shivas, it was a big Rebbe, and he asked Shivas, Shal Shivas Divrei Chaim, sharp, it was deep, it was a big, it was recognized by all the Gdoli's rule Bizmanoi. And he writes over there like this, quote, Achari isi b'shechenorach harav shel Tanya, mai v'divrei alech abayis lechem yehide gam kain. After I see that the Alter Rebbe brings down the shechenorach the abayis lechem yehide, mi lanu godol b'achroinam mimeni. Who is bigger than him in all the achroinam like the Alter Rebbe? V'lechain yiru no min lismach. Then basically, you have the Alter Rebbe, there's nothing more what to say. So you see, Poshet Tzanzaruf, which was, didn't have a problem to dingen mit Gedoyle Achroinim, but he said that Miluni Gudel Bachroinim mit Alter Rebbe. But the most fascinating thing is, there was a big Godel of Israel before World War II. His name was Meir Arik. The people who know Halacha, doing Halacha, know that Meir Arik was one of the biggest giants. It was like Menachem Zelm in Poland, Meir Arik was in Galicia. There's a couple of sfurim of him, Tshuvas and Ha'uras of the Shechenorach. And he had a Talmud, which was, I still remember him, his name was Rabbi Yankiv Teitelbaum. He was a Rav in Kew Garden Hills. And he was a Talmud Mivig of Meir Arik. So he said a very interesting thing. He said like this, that his Rebbe Meir Arik once said, that Melushin Shechenorach Harav, Yuchel Edayik Harbe Chedish Aluchas. From the Shechenorach Harav, from the Alter Rebbe Shechenorach, you could be Medayik, a lot of Aluchas. He writes like that also, that he said once like this, a very interesting story. Bajan Maruf, the Marsham, was the Poisiger Dor Bizmanoi. Bajan Maruf, whatever he said, he was, like the Litvische before Moshe Feinstein, or he was the Poisig, which when Bajan Maruf said something, he had the last word. So he once met with Meir Arik. Meir Arik said for Marasham, you learned Alter Rebbe Shechenorach like Mekifye, like as if it is, it's noch a Sefer Malaktim. If you would have been Medaig in the Alter Rebbe and every word and every ois, you learn it like Mekifye, like, as if it is like it's Shechenorach, so you don't find Chedishim in the Alter Rebbe. But if you would have learned Alter Rebbe like a Rishon, like the Rambam, or Medaig in every osin, you will see Tilem Shel Halochas v'Sidudat Chedishim Gedolim. This is what Meir Arik said once for Bajan Ruf. So he said for his Talmidim, let's see what is going to happen. Bajan Ruf was, let's see what's going to happen. So after a while, the Masham writes a Chivitz in Meir Arik, and it writes like this. My os Shekvoid gileli sod shel Chanur Harav. From when you gave me, you told me the sod of Chanur Harav, that from every oskem and badai exam like a rishon, you can see tilim shel luchas. Matzusi boy chedisha dinam la'alufim il-ruvas. Once you open my eyes, that from every word the Alter Rebbe is a Shechanurich, then I saw chedisha dinam, the 10,000. La'alufim means thousands and 10,000. That means, B'shan Ruf hat ungeheben zu anerkennen, that the Alter Rebbe Shechanurich is not just, again, I don't want to belittle the other likitas who this is gemacht am Peiche, in Ingern, kids Shechanurich gemacht am Peiche in Ingern, in Litte, the Chayudam, but the Alter Rebbe, you cannot learn like that. The Alter Rebbe, you cannot lay in bed and learn it. You have to, in order to understand Taki Eidavort, you have to know the whole background of the Shechanurich, the Torah, B'syasim, and the Rishonim. So at least, when you're going into Halacha, es lernt sich jetzt Halacha, sein Geschchiete, before you learn the Eirven, Tillim shel Haluchas from Yedi, kem medayz of Yedi Wort. Briske Ruf, which was a Litvischer Chayde. He said, from Shechanur Harav, you suppose you could be Medayik and learn as if you learned from Rambam, which is a big chiddush, because the Briske Ruf with the Rambam, we know his whole sefer is on the Rambam, and of a side of Haluch of the Rambam, he makes a whole ganze Haluchas, and he says, Azoi is Euchet of the Alter Rebbe Shechanurich. Another thing, I want to go back to the Meir Arik, because again, if you don't know who the Meir Arik is, you don't appreciate what I said. But once you get into Oil Maluch, Meir Arik so the Meir Arik said that he once complained when he learned the Chesribus, which I don't understand the Nikida, but this is what he said, that I don't have a klurikite in the Chesribus because it's not Shechanur Harav. And the same is also that he said that in Hilchas Shaimas Gitten, of Ebenezer, since the Alter Rebbe didn't write, I don't have a klurikite. Ich hab gehört that from other source, that he said the Hilchas Chanike I'm not clear in Hilchas Chanike because it's not Shechanur Harav. Because it's interesting saying that in Hilchas Ribas, because Hilchas Ribas there is a Shechanur Harav, Alter Rebbe. Could be that in Galicia there was no, could be Sinish Ungekimen. What? Oh, this is the second one I want to say. First one I say could be Sinish Ungekimen, because as we know, the Alter Rebbe Shechanur there was no Kahos then that was published as it was Daftzazan. But like he said, that the Alter Rebbe Shechanur is different in Chesribes than in regular. But Akapurim, what do we see? As it is, we bald the Alter Rebbe Shechanur of these subjects, we don't have a klurikite, because when we learn Alucha, what the Alter Rebbe is magder everything is mamash gewaldig. And the Ramacham Zembe, this you did hear, the one of the biggest Gdoli rule in Poland, it was like Mike Arig in Galicia, the Marazembe was awake by the Holocaust, and he said that he was a big Ili, was Ramacham Zembe was a Ili Nifla. So he said the klurkeit and the gladkeit which I have is from learning Ram, because Ram, and it's very geschmack rich, very clear, and from the Kinteras Achel from Alter Rebbe. In Achel from Alter Rebbe, over there I got the clearness of Halacha. Akapona, was ich will da rausbringen in Kiddes at Wurim is that basically Alter Rebbe you don't learn, just we learn. We have a side over here in Kingston, Baruch Hashem, and it's expanded. Moreover, they will learn Alter Rebbe Shechanur. So we just almost finishing Chalig Aleph. It's very nice. And Setafah we get a Asuga, what the Luch is at least. But learning the Alter Rebbe, you have to learn the whole background and know what this guy for. Then as you appreciate every word what the Alter Rebbe says, wie gewaltig this is. One also interesting quote is Rabbi Speisach Frank, who was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, way. The Mekruah Kodesh, so he said that what he's in spool, Mzetas the Alter Rebbe in a choset. Got bittel, and he is masber, and he tries to verämpfer achroinam, questions on the achroinam, which he was way bigger than them. And after began tried to verämpfern. Al Kapurim, my kid said Wurim is, Alter Rebbe was very big, And we as Chassidim, darf man sich kochen in seinem Teure, sich kochen in seinem Halucha, in Taki Madaig sein, als wir das Madaig in Arischen. And then we're going to see Tillim Shalaluchas. Okay, so now let's go and see a little bit how the Alter Rebbe made the Shulchan Aruch. As we know, there's a beautiful Hagdoma from Bnei HaMachaber, which I hope if you have time, you should go through, or maybe you went through already. The kinder, the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, with the Alter Rebbe's other two sons, write a Hagdoma. And the right over there, I'm going to quote the Loshem. He says, they say like this. Kishoya Adman Azuk Man Esrim Lirdav. And the Alter Rebbe was in Mezrich. The Alter Rebbe went to Mezrich when he was about 20 years old. He went to Mezrich to Da'as Hashem. He went to the Mezrich Magid, which was very famous there at that time. And when he was in Mezrich, the Mezrich Magid called in the Alter Rebbe and he said that I want to have a Shulchan Aruch made, which will have milsa v'tama. That means everything. You should not have halacha just, this is how you do it. You got to do it in a way like the Rambam, which is bli milsa v'tama. I want to have halacha milsa v'tama, and it should be k'mivn a chassidische Shulchan Aruch, which klal Yisrael wird gein neulich le'oira. V'ayin nuvi v'chuchem kamoichu, ein chuchem kamoichu, and he said nuvi. He said, ein chuchem kamoichu to do such a job. This is what the Alter Rebbe told for, this is what the Mezrich Magid said for the Alter Rebbe. When he was 20 years old, he came to the Mezrich not too long before, and the Mezrich Magid right away saw who the Alter Rebbe is. He was, the Lushim is a Shraben, that he was basically, Mula v'gudash miyama Talmud v'aposkim. Alter Rebbe came at the 20 years old, which is around the corner of all of you, and the Alter Rebbe was Mula v'gudash miyama Talmud, so you still have a few years to make up, we should, till the 20, you should be able to know a Shas, with the Gdoli Achroinim Aposkim. And the Alter Rebbe started right away, the Rebbe Heist, he started doing it, and he finished, when he was still in Mezrich, listen, he started Hilchas Tzitzis, and ganz Hilchas Pesach. Now anybody who knows Hilchas Pesach knows this is one of the complex halachas we see do that. And in along, it's the whole Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Heilig Gimel. It's a whole volume. And the Chassidus is also one of the hardest halachas in the Rechaim Aleph. And the Alter Rebbe finished it in the time when he was over there in Mezrich. The Alter Rebbe was in Mezrich, I think, a year and a half. Also steht in the Yom Yom. I think it was a year and a half. He went after Tisha B'Av. So he went together with his brother, who no Bochum knows the Yom in my heart. Only in the school they teach Yom in my heart, the girls' school. No Bochum knows. Yom it says that the Alter Rebbe went together with Rabbi Leib, his brother, to Mezrich. I think it was Av. And the Alter Rebbe asked permission from his wife. Rabbi Leib did not ask permission, so in the middle of the way he turned back, he got cold feet. So therefore he was not a Talmud of Mezrich Magid. And I think the Alter Rebbe stayed for a year and a half. I'm not sure, but let's assume it's a year and a half. It's not more than that for sure, but let's assume 2.5 years and a half. He made the Sefer. And again, the Alter Rebbe came off, and maybe not the first day the Mezrich Magid. So let's say in a year and a half, the Alter Rebbe made ganz Hilchas Pesach and Hilchas Tzitzis. That's accomplishment for a 20-year-old boy. Then he finished the whole Shulchan Aruch in 2 years. He finished the whole Orach Chaim in 2 years. The Heer Stamasa. So I don't think it was 1.5 years just Hilchas Pesach, because he has Hilchas Shabbos, Hilchas Yom Tov, Hilchas Erev, and ganz Yom Narum. Again, in 2 years he made the whole Shulchan Aruch. Then they add on like this. What was it? It was miyusad. It's very important now to listen to what I'm saying here, the illusion. Miyusad, aldayas, kol hapoiskim, rishonim, v'achroinim, ibroishem arav mugen avruam. It was miyusad of the poiskim, rishonim, v'achroinim, miyusad of the mugen avruam. Lo hifrid ala mida lach like utlaim. He didn't disagree with them. Lachriya, rak lachriya b'nayim b'rayis b'riris. He did not basically argue or disagree or wasn't cholik on the Gdoli Achronim. It was only machriya when there's machloikas, he was machriya. Then, when he was 30 years old, he started all over again to make a new edition on Shulchan Aruch. Editing, work it over, you work it over. He started with Hilchos Netilas Yadayim. This is the first what he did. And over there, it was more meyised on the poskim of Rishonim. So we see a very interesting thing which I'm going to show you. You see it auch the Shulchan Aruch mamash. That means also, when the Alter Rebbe made the first edition of Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe basically relied a lot on Achronim. In Beroishim the Mung Avroam, as we know, the Alter Rebbe goes very much with the Mung Avroam in Arachaim. Chitz Hilchos Paisich goes very much with the Chok Yankov. As we vat as the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek brings down, as the Sof Yuma of the Alter Rebbe was choizer, and says, it bothers me that I gave too much, so to speak, too much credit, but I rely too much on the Mung Avroam. Then when he started re-editing the Shulchan Aruch, which he didn't fully re-edit the whole Shulchan Aruch, then he was more lenient to be cholik of Achronim, and was based bikar on Rishonim. And that's why we're going to see in Hilchos Netilas Yadayim Taka, which he started, that was a second edition, you're going to see in the footnotes a lot more Rishonim, which the Alter Rebbe brings down. A lot more Rishonim. And over there, the Alter Rebbe could lav dafke go min among Avroam, be cholik among Avroam auch. And this is we're going to see in Medir Bastas for sure. You look at the Medir Bastas and Cheshabas, the few Medir Bastas what we have. You're going to see over there the Alter Rebbe zennemt sich mit Rishonim, and he goes, rechtet sich nicht so wat mit Achronim. That was the second edition. The truth is, there is a third shlav also in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. As they mention it, the Hagdomas from the Benai Mechaber, and they write like this, that when the Alter Rebbe became older, v'hoisiv chochma al chachmusoi, then hat gemacht Hilchos Nida. This is the Lushan. V'gam chiber b'chaylige redaya, befraat, that means also Hilchos Shchita, befraat b'Hilchos Nida, she hoi la'aizik nusoi, kol zman shehiskin, the older he got, hoisiv ba'koyach, igvire b'mechamta shetoira. So, we see like this. The first edition of the Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe went very much with the Achronim, and the klal was like this. I'll give you some allusion. The Alter Rebbe writes, for instance, in Kintras Achran, in Hilchos Shabbos, Reish Ni in Dalet, Sif Kut Beis, the Alter Rebbe writes like this. Anan hanem shuchem achar Shulchan Aruch b'chol mukom. We go according to the Shulchan Aruch b'chol mukom. B'chol mukom is a remu choyle gulav. That means whenever the remu is choyle on the Shulchan Aruch, so we are Ashkenaz, and therefore we rely on the remu against the Shulchan Aruch. But whenever the remu does not disagree with the Shulchan Aruch, we go according to the Shulchan Aruch. And the Alter Rebbe writes a couple of times, Chuli luluni lehukl neged the Shulchan Aruch. Chuli luluni lehachber neged the Shulchan Aruch. Afele l'kushel lehukl. Afele neged stimas bal Shulchan Aruch the kila alma grura basrai. Not only you cannot go against the Shulchan Aruch, but the Shulchan Aruch passed straight one way, even of the stimas of Shulchan Aruch. Sometimes when the Shulchan Aruch has soisam, and from the stima we could learn out something, we cannot go against them. Danan grira basrai. We go according to the Shulchan Aruch and Bas Yosef. In the Shulchan Aruch, in the Shalosh Yeshivas, similar Madhai, the Alter Rebbe writes like this: Chalilu ni lozes medivra Bas Yosef. Afilas this kol shihi laluch elamasa. Shulchan Aruch, he has the final authority. Not even as this kol shihi. In Kintras Achen Tuf Men Bais in the Chespaisich, he writes one time. We go according to Bas Yosef. And even when it's like killer, like, and it finishes, from where do you know, when he argues against one of the chronim, he says, how do you know you can be machmir? You know, somebody will say, okay, the Shulchan Aruch passes look, we want to be machmir. No, the Shulchan Aruch is our Rebbe, and we cannot be machmir just like that. So again, we see very strongly, as the Alter Rebbe was very strong with the Gdoli Achronim. And like, not only the Mechaber Remu, as we just mentioned, auch the Shulchan Aruch, the Terezuv mit dem Avrom. Even for that. As the Alter Rebbe writes one place, in Shabbos, Siman Shin Aleph Kitter Sachnan, HaShulchan Aruch v'Remu, im Mogen Avrom, v'shar Achronim shunem meshruch machayim. That means the Alter Rebbe gave a lot of, how do you say, authority for them. As Buzai Zugen, dus is es. A couple of times we're going to see Rashbam High, we see one time that the Alter Rebbe writes like this. The Rava holds like that. One shit. And we're going to, in the Mechaber passing like this. Rasha disregard, agrees with the Rava, but you can learn Pshat. Rasha learns different. He also agrees with the Rava. But even if Rasha doesn't agree with the Rava, I learn anything with Shechanur. Shechanur passing with the Rava, and that's about it. So, in the Alter Rebbe, you see, Befrata Shechanur, which the Remu and the Mugavrum and the Terezuv agree with it, so that's the Aluch. So again, we see that the Alter Rebbe was very strong with Achronim. But that's the that's the first edition. That's only the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, the first time when he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. Once he started editing, over there, he had no issue to be choilig on the Terezuv, even on the Mugam Avrom. If there is Rishonim against it, and we see it constantly, that Kemivn, the Alter Rebbe, just sich Dinge mit the Terezuv Mugam Avrom, just like that, but when he had Rishonim to himself, Misvur hat sich gedinge mit sein. Misvur, he gave him full authority. Mugavrum, Terezuv, Kemivn, the Remu, Shulchan Aruch. But when he had Gdoli Rishonim, which basically disagreed with them, hat got kein problem. That's why you see the famous Bedir Basra, which Alter Rebbe writes in Schiris Kablunas, which over there, the Alter Rebbe hat a poor killers dort, which is a Geschmack, because, Lema in Shivat Mun hat a Chimre, aber a Kapunem, ich hatte gebracht mit Michael on a big Yisod because of the Rishonim. So we see that in the Medira Basra, Alter Rebbe had, so to speak, I don't want to say it, but more guts, so to speak. But he can, as Chalang back in the Rishonim, then he went a lot with Rishonim against the Achronim. Sof Yomov, when even the third edition, dort noch mal gesehen, as he was Michael, even against the Shulchan Aruch. Even against the Shulchan Aruch, we're going to see, for instance, in Kif Ches, in Yadai Heilig Beis, schreibt I'm sorry, in Kif Ches in the Arachaim. Remember, this is great, it's to my Hirches dort in Berg Samusen, it's Alter Rebbe passend, and also passend the Shulchan Aruch, as the Gabratzai, see the Shlishis, that kids the Alter Rebbe, the Shulchan Aruch passend, that first to see this has to be with Pas, and see the Shlishis does not have to be with Pas. You could have it, the most possible Makisman. And that's the Pas in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. There's a Gu over there, with the Alter Rebbe's brother, the Maril writes, Shemati was the Lucian, Shemati memene besof Yomov. Sof Yomov I heard from the Alter Rebbe, Shechuzer boy, v'lo hitzrich lechel shir kvi yisida, you don't need to have mezoines kvi kvi yisida. Because if you have kvi yisida automatically, you have to wash as a Baruch HaMoitzi. But you don't have to. Again, this is gegen the Shulchan Aruch, this is gegen the Remu. And it's the Lekila. Aber bekannt, Alter Rebbe, wie bald sie geboten für Rishonim, Alter Rebbe doesn't write, because that's only a Shmiya. But if you delve in the whole Mekara Halacha, you're going to see that that's because he had the Rishonim on it, and once he had the Rishonim, he had no issue even to basically, once we got older, and Hoysef Chochma al-Chachmus is the Lush of the Altfriede from the Kinder, and therefore he tried to be mecholik even on Shulchan Aruch. Now you're going to look at Shulchan Aruch a lot of times. Again, you're going to see it. You can see it even in which halachas, Paisich, some halachas, because we're going to come to it in a minute. But we see that it's like a different the side the sagnon, inside, the Alter Rebbe could bring in the Maramakoimus, you can see the Maramakoimus in the side, which in the Nusha Chanorach, it's in Miriam letters. It's a different letters, which you know which one is the Alter Rebbe's Shechanorach, which by the way, it's the Alter Rebbe. There's a suffix, made the Maril, made the Matvisa, is the Alter Rebbe. We have Rai, is the Alter Rebbe. Where the first Rai is, because we see in the Madira Basra, now in the second edition, Alter Rebbe writes in the Maramakoimus, in the Ezuk, v'deloi karavat, this haben wir nicht gemacht, kann Matvisa. Es ist nicht starm am Maramukam. Alter Rebbe writes, K'moi Shemavi Barashba, v'deloi kishitas haravat, and we could see in the Maramakoimus, there's longer Maramakoimus. It's a Maramukam, but it's still, you see there, it's halbst uns zu sehen that was made all whenever you're going to see such a thing, you're going to see that this is a later addition. This is Alter Rebbe when it was later, older when he started working around a lot with Rishonim, then he would give more Maram Koimus and say, V'deloi kazeh, V'deloi kazeh, in the Maram Koimus, this, whenever you see such a thing, you see this is the, apart from, and now again, Hilchas Paisich, we see, Hilchas Paisich is nicht, let me stop a minute. What is the difference? Sidu, man darf auch wissen, why is so important what I'm just saying? Again, why is it so important to know that Hilchas Tzadim is Madira Shnia and Hilchas Shabbos is Lav Dafke, is Madira Jeshoyne Be'ikir, and Hilchas Paisich Yesh V'yesh? Why is it? Because we have sometimes when there's a machloik, there's, so to speak, a stira between Hilchas Paisich and Hilchas Shabbos. A stira. For instance, I'll give you a moshel. Come to mind. The cookies. Your cookies, yeah? Jack and Jill cookies. Yeah? Anybody knows Jack and Jill cookies? Tea biscuits. Tea biscuits. Hadar tea biscuits. Well, when I was a child, it was called Jack and Jill cookies. I don't know why, but that was it called. That means you have a cookie. In the cookie, you have the name, engraved the name of the company. Comes from it's Yisroel also we have it. The name of the company is part of the cookie. It's like a script. Can you eat it on Shabbos or not? What does that mean? What's the question? We have a birthday cake, or any cake which you have, and on top of the cake it says Mazel Tov with chocolate. Yeah, you have a big problem to cut it up on Shabbos, to eat it on Shabbos because of mechike. You have a way of words. You're breaking up letters. What is if you have a cake, which is, the cake itself is like a fiddle. Cake itself is like a big aleph. Or a child became 10 years old or 9 years old, you make a cake in the shape of a tess. Can you eat it or not? So we have the second type of cake. One cake is a cake which has engraved, has on top of it letters from chocolate or whatever it should be, or cream. It says Mazel Tov. Then we have a cake, which is the cake itself is the shape of us. Then there's a third one, which I just mentioned, Jack and Jill cookies, which tea biscuits, which the cookie is a regular cookie, but has engraved the name inside. Now, a cookie, it's engraved means it's not something else with chocolate on top of the cake. It's not a cake and chocolate on top of the cake. It is the cake itself is engraved with the I should have brought such a cookie if I might have, but I didn't think I'll give this much, but it fell in my head.
Would it be the same thing if the cake was somehow baked in a way that the cake itself would be sticking out?
The what?
Does that do with shakir or boiling, or does that have to do with if it's a davar noisef?
No, davar noisef, yeah. Ich will nicht reingehen in the Siege, ich will nur rausbringen an the Kidde. Now that's for sure, if you have a cake which has letters on top, it's usher. According to the Alter Rebbe, there's no question about it. That's for sure. You have a cake which is in the shape of a letter, a shape of a os, of a aleph, shape of a fiddle, whatever it should be. If the Alter Rebbe holds, it's okay. That's no question. The only question is, if you have a cake which has, the cake itself has engraved, so to speak, from the cake itself has letters. Can you eat it? You cannot eat it. Now, b'pashtas, I'm saying b'pashtas because it's a pshat, which I heard lately from Rav Segel from Kronheitz, which makes a lot of sense. Was halt bechal nicht kastieren. Aber ich kapunem gedoyle achroinem, when you couldn't mesoichem all the years, I felt there's machloikes between the Alter Rebbe and the Shabbos and the Chespais. And the Chespais, the Alter Rebbe is machmer, and the Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe is machmer. Such a case. What? The Alter Rebbe b'matzi is machmer, and the Alter Rebbe in Shabbos, Shimem, and other places, Shimem Gimel, know when it's on top of it. Ulaf. So how do you pass it? So whatever is later is how you pass. So what is later? Is Hilchos Pesach later than Hilchos Shabbos or not? So when it comes to the Shaila, if Hilchos Pesach is later than Hilchos Shabbos, then the Alter Rebbe is machmer. So if you will chuzer, and he holds it, so you have to be machmer. If Hilchos Pesach is not later, Hilchos Shabbos is later, so in the Alter Rebbe you can be Michael. So I personally was Michael in such cookies. I can't problem with such cookies because I say, let's assume it's a suffolk. Which one is later? Is a suffolk the Rabbunon? So with the Rabbunon, you can be Michael. But I want to know who is later. So we have a machloikas. So if you know which one, we can solve the problem. But we have a machloikas between Rav Beer Levin with Rav Avram Burich Pevzner, the rabbi for Chabad in France. Both wrote on the subject, which one comes first. And I think Beer Levin holds that Hilchos Pesach was a later edition. So therefore you have to be machmer. Rav Avram Pevzner holds no, it's an earlier edition. As we know, because the Alter Rebbe started with Hilchos Pesach, and we don't see he re-edited only that later he added on some things from Hadashim Nurach, but you see he didn't redo the whole Hilchos Pesach. So Hilchos Pesach was first, Hilchos Shabbos was later, so therefore you could be Michael. So therefore, it's a Sufik der Rabbunon, Sufik Achroinam, you can Michael sein. The ganze Sache is nur okay. So I'm giving you just a motion, you understand? Why is it important for us to know which one first, which one later? The same is also in Hilchos Berachos HaPayros. We have 3 editions from Berachos HaPayros. We have the Shulchan Aruch, we have Seide Berachos Hanhanim, yeah, and we have what? Luach Berachos Hanhanim, yeah. So we know already you do Baruch Hashem Badis that Seide Berachos Hanhanim is the last. So whenever we have a steer or a which the Alter Rebbe constantly from the Shulchan Aruch, we Seide Berachos Hanhanim is a lot of steers, not steers. He was choizer, but we have the Seide Berachos Hanhanim, he's the last, so we go according to Seide Berachos Hanhanim. But if you wouldn't have known, we had an issue. So that's why it's good, that's why I'm saying, you have to know what was first, what was after, and therefore, you could see somehow that when you're going to see the Alter Rebbe has in Bottom HaKoymes, which is more mitrashoinam, it's more, and it could push away some achroinim, you're going to see that's a later edition, because then the Alter Rebbe went already the second edition, in the third edition, we see the Alter Rebbe already was more lenient, had more, so to speak, brighter plights to go against achroinim if he had Rishonim against it. For instance, I'm going to just see in the Hilchos Netzadain, we have one of the Bottom HaKoymes is Rashbe, Mung Avrom, v'deloike Marshal, v'deloike Marit. Das hat nicht kein Dricker rangelegt. Das ist der Alter Rebbe rangelegt. Or some places the Alter Rebbe brings a haloch and it says, v'deloike Mung Avrom. We don't have such thing. So you see, you see that whenever you see the Bottom HaKoymes, agam, there are places which you don't have too much Bottom HaKoymes. But when you have your Bottom HaKoymes and you see the Alter Rebbe like this, you know that's a later edition. And therefore, by the way, in the Trisnaim we also have 2 editions. We have the Siddur and we have the Shulchan Aruch. So this is also for instance we have when there's some kind of steers, but we have the Siddur. The Siddur is always the last. That's the Poisek Achra. So this is one thing which we have to understand, that the Alter Rebbe made it a couple of times, and always we have to see which edition it was, if there is a steer. According to this, we should pass it. In Bechlal, whenever you're going to see the Alter Rebbe fights Kegen Achroinam, then you're going to see basically there's a second edition. So there, automatically has more leverage than a first edition if there is a steer. Or Bechlal is a Zach. Hilchos Pesach, I just want to say a minute. What's the machlokas when Hilchos Pesach first? That's why the Alter Rebbe wrote Hilchos Pesach first. This is Shtayt Dagdumas Machaber. He wrote Hilchos Tzitzis and Hilchos Pesach. Remember, yeah, I quoted it before. So that's for sure he wrote it before Hilchos Shabbos. But when you go in Hilchos Pesach, you're going to see, for instance, when the Alter Rebbe talks about Mechiras Chumatz. So in the Shulchan Aruch it says, "Ikevi shekesafti beside Mechiras Chumatz shebesider." There's 2-3 places which we see that the Alter Rebbe quotes, or not quotes, he references to something which is another place, which was a later edition. So Lechoire is Davzan Beer Levin gerecht, as Hilchos Pesach was a later edition. But he has come rise above von Burg Pevs. And was here, he shows that you're going to see that the Alter Rebbe did not rework the whole Hilchos Pesach. Afterwards, he wanted to rework the whole Shir Chanuch. There's no question about it. He started, but he was also a Rebbe. He also had Sechsidas. He also had Yechidus, which they came, the cow doesn't give enough milk, and I don't have panos, and the Alter Rebbe, as he was explaining, he was complaining that basically, you don't let me learn, and I want to leave the country, as you know, the famous, the Alter Rebbe said, I'm leaving the country, I can't manage, because the Alter Rebbe wanted to finish, he got a shlichus from his Rebbe, that he should make a Shulchan Aruch, and he didn't want to, be busy with everything but what his shlichus. But the Eibishter wanted different, and therefore, he didn't finish to rearrange the whole Shulchan Aruch against Medira. He made 4 Simonim in the morning, in the beginning, and then he made again until Sidaim. So when he was before, in Hilchos Pesach, he added on, once he had already the whole Shulchan Aruch, he added on some things, what he had over there, which we had, because the Alter Rebbe did not write the Shulchan Aruch Kesidran. The Alter Rebbe writes of the Shulchan Aruch, it was written Kesidran. Also the Alter Rebbe klur. The Alter Rebbe hat a klau. The Alter Rebbe has a lot of klur in Shulchan Aruch. That's why Rav Farkas made a sefer. Klur of Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, beautiful, nice klur on other achronim. So Alter Rebbe writes that the Shulchan Aruch was written on a side. Shulchan Aruch HaMachaba was written on a side, and also the achronim written on a side. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe holds, the Mugavrum also was written on a side. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe holds that if you see a Mugavrum later, or if you see a Machaba later, which says different than before, that means he größer gewesen. He retreated. And the Alter Rebbe, the famous Alter Rebbe, which everybody knows, is the Gaba Zman Motzei Shabbos. Yeah, no Zman Banacht. Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch pasten like Rabbi Nitam. Yeah, like the Satmara, like Rabbi Nitam, Shitz Rabbi Nitam, Motzei Shabbos. And then the Alter Rebbe in Siddur hat größer gewesen, the Paskin with the Goyim. Now Alter Rebbe writes, even the Mechaber was größer. What's the Raya? Because in the Shulchan Aruch, the Bes Yosef in Orachaim, Alter Rebbe passed the Mechaber, the Bes Yosef passed in the Shulchan Aruch like the Rabbi Nitam. And in Sien Hilchos Mila, Alter Rebbe, Hilchos Mila zog the Alter dort gewinnt der Schale, when he was born, my Nashmushes, and he had 3 stars, zog the Mechaber, damals you make the bris, is he geboren on a Shabbos. Once you have 3 stars. Wait a minute. By time, got 3 stars. The time guide with timetable, 72 minutes, or 96 minutes, whatever it should be, how much a meal is. The minimum is 72 minutes. So what does it mean? So zog the Alter Rebbe, as the Mechaber hat größer gewinnt. Who tells you? Maybe he wrote Hilchos Megillah first, and then he wrote this is the Alter Rebbe. He holds that in a shop, the Shulchan Aruch hat gemacht alla Seiten. The Alter Rebbe bringt doch mit der Mugavrum. One place the Mugavrum writes, one place the Alter Rebbe thinks with the Mugavrum. He says, because the Mugavrum itself, in a few Simonim later, holds different. But the Alter Rebbe himself did not make it with the Shulchan Aruch. Alter Rebbe said he did not make it alla Seiten. As I mentioned, Hilchos Tzitzis and Hilchos Pesach was first. When he started redoing it, Hilchos Netilas was first. The Alter Rebbe did not work with it. He took subjects. Subject 1, subject 2. So therefore, when we know which one is first, which one is the second, it helps you a lot to know the Hachrua, how to paskin when there's a stira. In there are stiras between Chalukim and Shulchan Aruch and that.
Is it the first one based on Kabbalah?
The what? The first 4. Yeah, but that's also that when the Alter Rebbe started redoing the whole Shulchan Aruch, he wanted to make the Shmadira Basra should be more into Kabbalah. So therefore, the Madira Basra is more Kabbalahic.
And Kabbalah.
The what? Yeah, Rishonim and Shazam is a stimme mit Kabbalah. And that's why Bechlal, the Alter Rebbe's Siddur, which I wrote a whole article on it, the Alter Rebbe is in a Siddur is more than once. I'm digressing a minute. The Alter Rebbe had a Siddur. What was that Chiddush Alter Rebbe's Siddur? Bechlal. Alter Rebbe's Siddur is Siddur Arizal. Ich the Nisach jetzt. Ich nicht jetzt der Luchas, der Nisach. Alter Rebbe has a Nisach Arizal. But the Alter Rebbe hat weggestellt a Nisach Ari, which is stimme mit Halucha, Hafel befehlen. And that's what Alter Rebbe hat gearbeitet gemacht. Als es stimme mit Halucha. The Alter Rebbe was Aish Halucha in Aish Kabula. That means the Rebbe used to say. Balatanya was Shulchan Aruch. He was the poising in Nigle and poising in Primus HaTorah. So therefore you can see a lot of things which I have a lot of a lot of, how do you say, the Gemors, the Alter Rebbe wanted there should be a pikant halucha. Gegeben a mushel, a sache der zwei. First of all, is, in Yoitzer HaMoires, there's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that you have to finish a bracha. Sumach lechesima has to be like the chesima. Yeah? So therefore you can see all the brachas in the Davenan. The last shtickle, which is right next before Burich Atu, is going to be an Indian Rafiyah. Although in the middle you could drive a little bit away from it, last shtickle will be an Indian Rafiyah. But there's one bracha, Yoitzer HaMoires, is the Welt, has an Nitzach like this. After we sing, is in all the Sidirim it says, Oir Chudash al Tzien Tuir, V'niske Kiluni Yachel B'mhayru Le'oiroi. We ask from the Rebbeinu Shloim, we talk about Or, we're asking Or Chudash al Tzien Tuir, shine up a new Or on the Shalayim. V'niske Kiluni, we should be zeich to the new Or when Mashiach will come. So that's a nice tefillah, beautiful tefillah. But that's not Sumach lechesima. You're going away from the chesima. The chesima, the nisich Sumach lechesima is Kumel ois oirim gedolim ki You're talking about Or. So yeah, Burchat Hashem, Yoitzer HaMoires. You're talking about creating the Or. We came to Rana tefillah. So Alter Rebbe took it out. It doesn't belong here. Just took it out. V'leshlayim mir gebracht tushiv. Psish kem esreich kash gewartu. So what does the world say? No, we say this. If not, it's going to be my noilem. But the Welt says, if not, it's going to be my noilem. So the Alter Rebbe, wait a minute. We're talking about the Shalaim. So if you want to say it before, fine. But the Sumach Lechasima has to be Lechasima. So that's why the Alter Rebbe switched it. Basically, we say it in the Svardish Dir Mochet. If not, it could be a minor. And there's a lot of other mashalim which we see the Alter Rebbe, although he made a siddur, a pikabala, that's Nishari, but he was loyal to Allah all the way. Because the Alter Rebbe was, the Rebbe like of sich, ich bin ish Allah. The Alter Rebbe was ish Allah. I can make a kisva siddur, but it has to stem with Allah. That's what a lot of things which he changed and he did in the siddur, which is a fascinating thing to delve in a little bit in it, is what the Alter Rebbe wanted it should be comparable. So the same goes to your question. The Alter Rebbe wanted to make the Medya Basra, which would be halachadik, and halachadik means all the way bis der Rishonim. Then, but it's also not a pikabula. It's not kastira. I befragt wie the Alter Rebbe had gesagt, dass der Rebbe vielleicht, the Rebbe used to always koch, very strong, that kabula mit halacha is kastira. Anybody who thinks kabula in halacha is kastira, or doesn't know halacha, or doesn't know kabbalah. The people who know Kabbalah and Allah know there's no steer in Kabbalah and Allah. That is the saying from the Rebbe Breit Sarupa. So, B'mayla, that was the Nikid was the Alter Rebbe wanted to do with the Shulchan Aruch also. But again, in some of the only a few simonim, a little bit here, a little bit there, even in Chesed Daim you could see a little bit as the Heilige Kabbalah there in Ochet.
The Alter Rebbe only wrote on those four? So it was something that was born and was lost? There's no indication.
There's no indication on it. There's no indication that it was lost. We have someone which we know we lost, but to say that he wrote lost in Pink Day 4, no. Pasha says he started, and then he didn't finish it. The Alter Rebbe was a busy Rebbe. Look the Mamorim which he wrote, which is said, and then there was the Kitrik. This is okay, ich kann noch Zeit ein Minute, ja? Ich will noch eine Kid, okay, ich habe noch Zeit, okay. Ich will noch eine Kid gehen. When you said Marav is 6:30. Okay. Das ist eigentlich, okay. Another thing which I want to bring to your attention is also very important Kid. There's a Sechzer that the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, but there's a saying, goes on the gas, there's a saying, so to speak, that in Achronim bringing us constantly, whenever you see a Segraim in the Alter Rebbe, the saying is, Alter Rebbe has the suffix. He didn't know how to be machriya. He wanted to address the subject later. And then he's going to be machriya. So whenever you have a segrayim, is so to speak a suffix. So we could, so to speak, we could do with it whatever you want. So whenever somebody doesn't like something which Alter Rebbe writes and it's in a segraim, okay, so it's a segraim. Ich bin nicht beschrieben, it's a segraim, because Alter Rebbe allein has a suffix. So, ich bin good enough that I can be passed on this Alter Rebbe segraim. But this is a myth. This is not true. It is true there are some segraims, which is, the Alter Rebbe wanted to delve in later, but it's a minimum sheba minimum. It's a tiny fraction which we have. Most of them does not go into this category. And there is about 5 or 6 reasons what things is in the category, what goes into the segraim. And I'm going to just tell you, beklul is the gezach. There are some segraims which, again, goes into this category. The Alter Rebbe wanted to be machriya. And the makar is the Divin Nechemia. The Divin Nechemia in Dachs Machlut Tzemach Tzedek. But they write it on a specific zach. The what? The Maril, right? The Divin Nechemia brings down from the Maril, or the Tzemach Tzedek. One of them brings down from the Maril. Yeah. But what did? Now he said. Yossi said the one. What does it say over there? Whenever he had a suffix, he put in a segraim. He didn't say that whatever he is in segraim is a suffix. That's the chilik. We took it to a major step. Whatever he had a suffix, he put him a segraim. But not whatever every segraim is a suffix. And that's a major difference. Most of them is nicht in der Kategorie. Now, dort wie Gdoli Achroini, wie the Tzemach Tzedek, wie the Maril, or Ashara Koilo will say, this is it. Okay. But most of them does not go. And you're going to see, es stimmt nicht. For instance, first let me tell you, there is 6 other reasons why the Alter Rebbe did put it in Segraim. The first is Azoi. Sometimes there is a Segraim which the Matikim put in. Matikim, because when they made the Shulchan Aruch, when you have User, and you have a line which says also User, Abu Charazetzer, when he starts working on typesetting, especially that days, when I was a child, it was still like that. You had to have letters from metal, and putting in Aleph, a samach, a vov, a reish. You know how you have to push it. It should be, I still remember how they used to do it before you had the computers, Mama Shamachaya, which, So therefore, he would have to look and start working, putting it together. Nowadays when you type, most good typers, professional typers, they don't look b'chlal on the keyboard, They type like this. They go line by line, That's when you see advertising, you're looking for a person in the office who needs to have typing skills. Means not you have to type like this, because then everybody can type like this. It means you can look at it and type a letter in 5 minutes. So you're going to see the professional typer. They look at, so there's much less also mistakes, typos, but not whole lines. But over there used to be a Shulchan Aruch. They had to read and play 15 minutes on one line. Okay, so now we're up to Osir. Okay, so what's next to Osir? You start the next line. But he skipped from one Osir to the other Osir. So a whole line could be skipped. Or even more than a line and a half. I wouldn't say a whole keta, but so we could see clearly some segraims is because after a while they realized what's going on. Hat man the next Madira, wie either hat man es ziegeleicht, aber man gesehen hat, du fehlt, hat man ziegeleicht, they added on this piece, oder mit Zad Ashura, mit Zad, you saw something what it is. Pashas is das gewesen, as something is missing. Man ziegeleicht Wörter in order to know a word, 2, 3 words. And that's why you have a lot of segraim which is 2 words, which basically fell out. And sometimes you could see that there's a word here, word there, and you could see how the mistake happened. And they added it on. That's one reason.
See the next word that's before?
What?
See the word that was...
You could take out the segraim, and you could see, first of all, you could see sometimes that there's an osir here and an osir here. That it makes sense. It makes very clear sense. That means you see how the mistake happens. That's one way. Then, sometimes segraims is there's a word which basically was put inside and it's a mistake. But again, if you take out this word, the next Madira, You have to rearrange the whole, again, it's not a computer. You take out a word and the computer sets it, then you have to take out a word. How do you make it? It should stay aligned and you don't have to do over. You don't do that. So what do? You just have a word which is extra, or two words which is extra, which is a mistake or whatever. You just put in two pieces of metal which are very thin in the segraim. That means take it out. Take it out. Then the segraim, which the Alter Rebbe gives an explanation. It's not the guy who had the halacha mamash with the Alter Rebbe, right? But he gives an explanation, so the Alter Rebbe writes it in the segraim. Says the Alter Rebbe like. Then there's the graims, which usually you're going to see, the Alter Rebbe digresses a minute. Digresses from this halacha to a different halacha. Was is negaya, nicht negaya for halacha, but it's negaya for der inyan. So again, you shouldn't distract the person who learns. So you should be able to skip over. So like the Transegraim, as we do today's day when we do such things. When we digress in the middle of things, you have brackets. You have, today's day is schon ungenehm, there's round brackets you take out, square brackets is putting it in. But that wasn't the klal then, there was no square brackets then. Then everything was round. So sometimes, Alter Rebbe decided, I want to explain something, somewhere else, and it puts it in the bracket. So there's not a reason which basically is, and sometimes, which is Nikida, as se nicht der Guy du, se der Guy for something else, aber du kimmt es heran, nicht mit Zad Halucha, nur mit Zad, weil ich red wegen der Neuse. I'm talking about this Neuse. That's where I'm putting it in. And that's why you're going to look through the Shechnurach, which I cannot give, ich kann, aber es ist sehr lange, you have to go into the halachas, but I have a reshima of a lot of halachas we're going to see. This segraim is a thing which is taka asufik, and most of the segraim are not svaikas. Most of the segraim is a hesber or a heilig in the halacha which digresses from what he was before. But most of them is nishkan sufik. So therefore, what? Or it's not Alter Rebbe. Yeah, that's also a tiny, but then you can see it's a mistake. You're going to see that it doesn't make sense. For instance, there are places which a sif and a half is in Segraim. So what does that mean? Alter Rebbe got a sufik in the ganze Sache and he's in Segraim. Or the Mati give a rang like the Medato page and a half. It doesn't make sense. The what? No.
He put sometimes like...
In the Shechanurach?
Yeah.
The Marilla trying like that in the Shechanurach?
I think, yeah.
But which one? Yeah. My Chetaisa.
Not sure, this is
Someone proves it, that
there was that the Alter Rebbe about Shishim Riba that you shouldn't carry. Yeah. How? What is the proof?
Because of the footnote, usually there's bases in footnotes. This one has a star. So he says the whole Segraim, but the star is all.
Okay. You know. I could say very much. Ich verstehe, sei steht Alter Rebbe, sie sagen, ihr schmeim ja achmer auf Asamin Alucha. Because so ein sagt, Alter Rebbe, nochmal, Shittas Rashi ist, als sie darf sein Shishim Rebbe, ja? In der Mechaber, Pashas Shechanurach, der Mechaber schreibt, es darf sein Shishim Rebbe. Der Mechaber bringt es auch zu, nur Vayesh Omra. Mechaber leidt zu Vayesh Omra. In der Alter Rebbe writes constantly, Hamini, der Alter Rebbe nicht bechrien. Du ist allein, Machloikes. So du, sie sagen, ich sage, jetzt gehen wir digressen, but wir wollten es gelernt eiren. Is there do three ways how to learn this Kiddush. You can learn like this. The Alter Rebbe pasten wie the Shittas Rambam in company. The Rishonim, 7 Rishonim, or wie the Mishbir gemacht Gershom, the 12 Rishonim, which hold that basically you don't need. You don't need. Then the Mechaber says, V'yashomram, Sofkesov the V'yashomram, as you need Shishim Riva. This is Shittas Rasha, and also 7 Rishonim. If you look at the B'Yosef, 7 and 7, and according to the Mishkanis Yankel, which says it's Yid Bais, Yid Bais. So, more or less, although Yankel wants to write that Rav Rishonim are like the Rambam, the Bais Ephraim writes Rav Rishonim are like, so again, this is a thing which is... Yeah, try to win Ur Rishonim, Ur Zachen, but I can put him, so, could be the Alter Rebbe Pastens like the first Shitta, it's awesome. The Alter Rebbe says, that means Be'etzem, verkehrt. Be'etzem halt das wird die Shitta, erste Shitta, and therefore, Yerushalayim Yachmer, man tun nicht drücken, weil halt Pasken also. But sof, Yef Shalimchas, somebody's Michael, because you have a lot of Rishonim, Michael. Okay, the Mechaber brings this up, Yef Shalimchas. Then there's, that's Rabbi Levin's way how to learn Pshat. Then there is another way how to learn Pshat. Yeah, what's his name, the Rashiv from Brunois, Kalman's son. He says that, Alter Rebbe Hals, wie Shittus Makilem, al Yashambra. B'mayla, no was then, Yerashmaim Yachmed, Alter Rebbe is a Fordu Shittus Shoynem, Yerashmaim Yachmed. Why should, Bechal, I'm going to digress into the digress. So es wird Bechal, Alter Rebbe, Bikaron, Alter Rebbe is given a Russischer. The Russische Bechal will be big Machmirim. I mentioned this already once by one of the Shirim. The Russische will be big Machmirim. In the Polish is alles gewen amachai, alles geht. Es ist a mentality. Es ging die Chivas der Schoene von der Russische, von den größten Machmirim, and the Chivas von der Galician and the Polish is a big Maikilim. Mashan Ruve, as I mentioned before, my Arik, all the this camp were big Maikilim. I mentioned it. I heard from a Yid, which he told me like that. The Rigisaboisam, the big Rigisaboisam heard that the Hannes Teipler was a Rosh Rebbe. He was a big, the Alter Rebbe's Einikel. Yeah, he was a Einikel of the Cherkassa. The Cherkassa was an item of the Mittler Rebbe. So he was Alter Rebbe's Einikel. And he was a Rosh Rebbe, Hannes Teipler. He was a Chnobler, but Alter Rebbe, So he came to a chasana. He was a Meshadach with Tzanzaruf. That in Tzanzaruf's baby child, the Pshum Lezel, was his son-in-law. Was his son-in-law or was a Einikel, dachte mir. I don't think if it's his son-in-law or a child. But he came to the chasana. So when Hannes Teipler was a big Gudel Batoyer, he wrote the Svaram on Mekvuos, until Sedaim. It was a big, by the way, the Barak Ababar we see over there already. He writes that he said that the Cherkassa made the Barak Ababar. The Cherkassa, the Alter Rebbe's Einikel, the Mittler Rebbe's Eidem, the Cherkassa was a Chnobler. He has the whole shit of the Alter Rebbe Barak Ababar. He has it with tiny differences, but more or less he has it over there. So he came to the Chasana. It was a big Chasana, Tzanzaruf big Chasana, and I think Tzanzaruf wasn't alive then anymore. It was a Zakhan Admoirim. And the Rigseboisam wanted to be one night with this big Gudel. Rigseboisam was a big Gudel in Ingern. He came to the Chasana because he was a Shinimchos or whatever. And he asked, every night somebody else had to be a Meshamashim because he didn't have a wife or whatever. So the Gdoilis rule, they want to be, Rigseboisam said, I want to be a Meshamash one time. I want to be a Meshamashim one night. So he was Meshamashim. So I heard from a Yid, it was a Talmud Rigseboisam, the Rigseboisam said, that it came the shmis between about the Beshan Ruf, the Marsham. Marsham is a big Michael. The Besham, which I said before, which the Mararik told him that you should learn Alter Rebbe, he's a very big Michael. He used to say, like the Rebbe said for one of the Shlichim, when Shlichus, and he asked, how will I paskin? How do I know what the paskin? So the Rebbe says, you should learn Kitzur Shechanurech, min Shiurim Mitzim Maluch. Shiurim Mitzim is Rav Braun, the Rav Braun from Karamas. His grandfather made a sefer on Shechanurech, and a lot of kulas. The Rebbe writes over there, whenever he's machmer already, you have to be machmer. So they used to say a word, when Beshan Ruf is a machmer, if he's machmer, it's also gummer. Because he was such a big Michael. But he knew Kalator Kila Be'erevain, So the Shmis, the talk came together with Hannes Teipler about the Beshan Ruf, and he said, a sefer full of kulas. A sefer full of kulas. The Hannes Teipler said it on the Beshan Ruf. I want to bring out that the Russische, Bechlal sind gewähm Machir. Der Alter Rebbe mit dem Mishbrieren. Der Alter Rebbe ist ein größerer Machir mit dem Mishbrieren. Mishbrieren ist more Michael. Where? In the Mishnah Berurah is an Amachmar from the Litvische. And after again, the Alter Rebbe is, that's why when I say when the Alter Rebbe has a kula, is mamash, the few times the Alter Rebbe has brighter killers, she mem with kriya, or I had a shaila, I got a sourdough. It was in the guy Lamasa. So I said, we are Alter Rebbe's Chassidim, we can be Michaels. When the Alter Rebbe has a killer, we don't have to be Machmar. Although the Rebbe Grad is like Andra Michael. I'm going to say that Alter Rebbe was Bechal Bikaron, is the Alter Rebbe going to Machmar. Wie ben ik ongemis de Halocha? Oh, so B'maila, ich halt tak is a killer, aber ich will machen, ja schon, ich will Machmar sein. And we see the Alter Rebbe writes 4 or 5 times, bis man einen, a minig, as bis man einen, haben wir Kishis Ram. So we see basically Eshna that he holds like this shit. But okay, I want to be Machmar, we're Machmar. Then, other will say, which this makes more sense, Alter Rebbe is Machriya. No, there's, Machaber is not Machriya, Alter Rebbe is Machriya. Where did I get it, this whole... So you want, because you made this, so Alter Rebbe, okay, okay.
So the pile, I'm
the guy, but what? That's not political noise. That's not political noise. You know, that's the thing that Alter Rebbe writes 4 times. This man is ein Shitram. This is that can be the thing. But for others, I could see here to say, this man is Alter Rebbe. But today's day, okay. This is a rein, the emes is a rein halucha die gesagt. The problem is when Teure wird political, that's the problem. Aber wie Karon, we can help by this do, you know. We can help by this do them, but that's for sure, as the meaning of Litvische gewähnt, wie der Rambam, there's no question about it. Mishnah Berurah goes in ganz wie der Mishkim Sank, was der Litvische Guru. And when ich Chassidim was bei Sefraim gewähnt, nicht gechusset, aber he was very close to Chassidim. He was from the brother clause, from the... Es wird auch nicht nur mit Chassidim. Nein, bis gerecht auch, aber es ist geworden, also alle Chassidim alle Deures Michael gewinnt mit Eiref, in der Litvische alle Deures machen mit Eiref. That was always the case. The Lubavitcher was always in the middle, you know. Yesh v'yesh. Noch mit Alter Rebbe allein Yeresh Mayim Yachmer. And this is how we should do, by the way. At Alter Rebbe Yeresh Mayim Yachmer, aren't we Chassidim? Aren't we Chassidim? So again, in Chassidim, dachten wir sehen zum Achmer sein. So when it's the guy Lamasa, if you want to know what is the truth, so Mamaila, if es kommt zu den Jungen, ja, so du hast Indien, aber es machen wir seine Strüge in Eiref. Ich sage es klar. If you want to know. Aber, wir können schmöchen an somewhere else, in der Kessisch machen wir es an einer zweiten. Some people will say, you know, die was machen wir es fein. Lass dann haben Kinder, you know, you're going to let the wife and children stay at home and because you are Machmer. You know, again, ich meine rauszubringen, aber if you Bucheram, then Chassidische Bucheram, Alter Rebbe sagt, Rashmayim Rachman, this is what we need to go. That what we need to head. Rashmayim Rachman, we should be Machman. Okay, das wird man Machman. Ich kann was ziffhartigen. Du hast 16 Reden für Segraim, aber again, there isn't too much time. And also, we have to go into a lot of halachas. But, which halachas did you learn lately in, it's gelernt in Archaim Epis. Okay. Sometimes you can have 2 sigraims right next to the other. You saw it already. Alter Rebbe could say 2 sigraims right next to the other. Sometimes you're going to see it's right next to the other because it's 2 haluchas which the Alter Rebbe wants to, digress with other Sachen. But, for instance, you want to see where is our halacha which Alter Rebbe had a sufik, is derech klal the Alter Rebbe gewissen as a sufik. For instance, Simmer Reish Ein Wuf, Helge Shabbos, Simmer Reish Ein Wuf. Dort is the Shala, this is a soft, dus ich kann nicht maßen sagen, bekzire. Dort noch the Alter Rebbe Shala, that a goy washes dishes on Shabbos. Yeah? Now, I want to make it clear, just, you should know the halacha, people have a tendency to let goites, which come on Shabbos, do everything. And they say, Iser Gumar. A goite, cleaning lady, which comes on Shabbos, can do only a thing which you can do. Whatever you cannot do, it's also for you to do, you cannot tell her to do. That means she cannot vacuum clean, and she cannot, there's a lot of things which she cannot do. Because you cannot do it. But she could wash dishes with hot water. Although you cannot wash dishes with hot water. The halacha is, because she doesn't use the hot water for my sake. For my part, wash the dishes in cold water. I have no problem. She wash dishes in cold water. No, that she wants to wash dishes in hot water. So she does it for herself. If a goy does something for herself, it's not my problem. Even it's in my house. But it's not, I did not tell her to do it, and she doesn't do it for me. Not necessarily, not telling is not enough. She does not do it for me. Because sometimes a goy does for me, even I didn't tell them, I have to be moich. So she could wash dishes in hot water. That's clearly. What is, if the sink, which is in a different room, let's say you have in a different room you have a sink, and she wants to go wash the dishes, over there she puts on the light. Yeah? And the Alter Rebbe writes like this. The goy puts on, the cleaning lady puts on the light in order to wash the dishes to clean the dishes. Even though the haducha, she washes the dishes the tzorech ha-Yisroel. Why does she wash the dishes? Because I told her she washes the dishes. Ein hadluka zi nikras b'shvil Yisroel. This hadluka, when she puts on the light, does not mean she does it for me. The haducha is for me, cleaning the dishes is for me, but putting on the light in the room which she washes the dishes is not for me.
What if I say...
One second. Let me find. We'll get to it. We'll get to the questions. Hoil, why doesn't is not on Yisroel? Hoil va'angiv Yisroel nehena miner zeh. Since the Yid doesn't have no hanoah from this ner. It's a segraim miner zeh. Then the Alter Rebbe writes weiter mehaducha zu. Och den segraim. So the Alter Rebbe sagt zwei Sachen. Why isn't it a problem? So since this ner is not for Yid, va'ain gif ha-Yisroel, the Yid does not have a no, minerze mehaducha zu. In beide sind segraim, extra segraim. So we have two segraims. What does that mean? When nerze mehaducha zu. So Baruch Hashem, the Alter Rebbe wrote a kinteres achen, and right away in the bottom, the Alter Rebbe writes, and took the sufik. He explains, what is my sufik? Tzimenerze, oi maduchze. Doch mit alucha is alucha memeik. Then kids to do is, what is the reason? Was there, if you know the reason, lo dem ma wissen, asach andere Sachen später. But mine is, wie die Alter Rebbe kinteres achen, afentim zeloi meshe gebunas at tere zuv menerze, ma kam gefi amung an vruam, le tzorich shnayim at zan usse. So therefore the Alter Rebbe goes in a whole pilpul, what's his sufik? Menerze maduchze. So this is a segraim which we see clearly. The Alter Rebbe writes, and he doesn't have an achrua how to do it. He says, I'm going to go further down.
What's the reason?
The what?
What's the reason? The topic is not the reason.
What's the reason of what?
The topic is not the reason.
Yeah, the reason. So, fine. Yeah, but it's negayel alucha. According to the reason, it's negayel alucha. That's why it's a machlokes tish der zuvum gavrum. And the Alter Rebbe struggles, so that's why he put in the same parentheses, what's the segraim. Do it when a mushel, was in Zeh with the Alter Rebbe, I got a sufik. Now, not necessarily always with the Alter Rebbe has a sufik, he puts a footnote. Kinder Sachen. Let me get it clear. But there are some places, I'm going to finish with this. There are some places which there is a segraim, which basically, this is basically a Kinder Sachen, and the Alter Rebbe eventually decided to put it upstairs. He took it out from the Kinder Sachen, and he decided, let's put it inside upstairs, and he put it in segraim. That's why you're going to see a long kindersachen. You're going to see a long segraim, and you're going to see dort guy the Alter Rebbe ran a bissel in tamam. What is it? It is basically a kindersachen where the Alter Rebbe put it upstairs. So this is just the kid. What I want to stress so much. So do a gewisse, so to speak, Ungenehmigkeit in Fratba, nicht le Babische Chassidem. Der Babische Chassidem weiß noch ein bisschen wegen dem. Aber bei der Welt, der Alter Rebbe ist ein Greim, ist ein Suffolk, so ich darf sich schwächen. I don't have to deal with it that much. The Alter Rebbe is a Suffolk, ich make Fachiris on whatever I want. And that's a mistake. We have to know where, when, in what is a Greim, which is a Suffolk, and all other places, the Alter Rebbe is Machriya. It's machriya. And sometimes the segraim is the hachru. Sometimes you have a segraim which is just hachru. So again, just to sum it up, segraim could be because sufik. Segraim could be because there was a hashmuta from the dricker and the madrika added it on. Segraim could be because Alter Rebbe wanted to put in epas ha'achai alucha with senegaya, but it's not really what the subject of a skim taros dufin, so he put it in segraim. Segraim could be a kiddas acher which was brought up lamala, and segraim could also be a thing which is the Alter Rebbe digresses, wants to give a tam, he digresses, and he doesn't want the flow of the people who learn, they should get disturbed. So every time when you have such a case, you have to sit down and learn it through, and learn through the background again. Alter Rebbe, if you don't learn Torah B'S Yosef with the Rishonim Mafila, but Torah B'S Yosef, Git, with the Shechanurach, with the Mungamruk, with the Zuf, you are not going to understand Alter Rebbe. You could learn it. I once heard from a bocher, from a young man who learned in Koilem. He tells me like this, and that's such a classical statement, which I love it. You know, there's halachas in the beginning of Cheshabbat, it's called Schiris Kablunas. Fin Reish Mem Dalet. It's one of the very hard. That's all, if a goy could do for you a job, do. A super, it's very complicated halachas, really complicated halachas. And the Alter Rebbe is even more complicated. So, in that, over there, there's like I mentioned before, but Medir Basar, which, although the Alter Rebbe is Machman Shechanurach, comes Medir Basar, is Michael, that's a Machai, because if not, you would have had a lot of problems. Michael, supers. What? To Sefer Sanua, yeah, there's a lot, so, it's very hard. Schiris Kabul is very hard, and it came out on the Alter Rebbe Shechanurach, and this halacha is maybe 3 or 4 svarim. So he once told me, I learned, they used to learn als bocher, they learned Shechanurach, Shabbos, you know, and I'm a chai, I know it well. I went to a koiling man, and I came in a koil which learned Shabbos, and I started in Schiris Kablunas, I started in the Alter Rebbe Shechanurach, I have no schwierigkeiten machten, you know, everything collapsed. I knew was Schiris Kablunas, everything was good. You learn Mishtabariya, learn Shechanurach, everything is fine, everything is clear good. He started to learn the Alter Rebbe, boom, everything collapses. Weil the Alter Rebbe geht dort ran in the Kishke von der Sache. What does that mean? That means you didn't learn till now, wie es darf zu sein. Als du nur zu lernen, wie es darf zu sein, hast du sagen, Tillem shel Aluchas, wie der Beshander Ruf, wie Marach hielt für der Beshander Ruf. So, der Bucheram, you learn Alucha, you learn Shechanurach, you learn the Gemara, learn the Shechanurach, learn the Alter Rebbe Shechanurach, like sing around the Shechanurach, the Alter Rebbe Shechanurach. So, wissen, das ist in der Rebbe, and this is it's a summa geschmack. What?
What do you mean medayik? Medayik actual words?
Medayik is who's the Alter Rebbe like do an a kid. Who's that gesucht anders? Who's the Alter Rebbe sometimes quotes a Mugan Avruam and is meshanig in the Russian. Why? He wanted to do something about it, or he gave extra woof. Two reasons. See, once you get into Shechanurach, again, it's learning Shechanurach, Torah B'S Yosef, you're going to realize with the Alter Rebbe, Machma Peiches, it's Reish Samach Gimel, this is, so to speak, an easy Elucha for Chesnare Shabbos. The Alter Rebbe got Chedish in the room, which is mind-boggling. Push the Elucha, Chesnare Shabbos, what? That means, bis Medaik, bis darf zu sein, is du eures Leones, and if you're going to sit and learn the Alter Rebbe show, bis darf zu sein, but the Zohar is not to say, Tillem shel Chadishim G'doyle v'nefluim.